Hi, I'm going to talk about Dale Carnegie and his book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. I took the Dale Carnegie course many, many years ago, and he's most famous for his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But this book was also important in my life. When I took the Dale Carnegie course, I was in a state of anxiety, I guess, because I didn't know what I wanted to do for a living. And almost as if he was psychic, when I went to the introductory meeting for the Dale Carnegie course, and my dad was with me, of all things, the instructor was talking to people in general who had come together to inquire about the Dale Carnegie course and wanted to know what people did for a living. And he asked me, and I said, well, I don't know. I'm in a state of flux. I don't know what I want to do for a vocation. And then he kind of pointedly but smilingly asked, well, if you had to choose right now, what would you say you would like to do for a living? Well, I had to think fast, and I said, well, something to do with music, because that's what I'd been doing up till then, playing music gigs in high school and college. I took the Dale Carnegie course, and they have you get up and speak a couple of times every session, and it's a very good training for getting out of your shell and improving your self-esteem, and it was just what I needed at the time. So in this book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, he talks about what worry can do to your health, mentally and physically. And he says 1 in 10 people will have a nervous breakdown. Now that's a pretty high percentage. He talks about a smallpox scare that happened in New York City, I think in the 20s or 30s. And 2 people died, and there was a big scare. People went running, knocking on people's doors, telling them to get smallpox vaccination. And he says, well, nobody ever knocks on my door telling me to be concerned about worry and what it could do to my health, when in fact worry and anxiety can be far more detrimental to your health than many of these physical diseases. And in the book, Dale Carnegie talks about a technique that one of his students, I believe, came up with to help deal with worry. And the technique is fairly simple, and I still use it. You have 3 steps. The first step is to ask yourself, well, what is the worst that can happen in this situation that I'm worrying about? And you say, well, I could lose a lot of money or whatever it is. And then you bring yourself to, well, if need be, I can accept this situation if it comes to that. The second step is to take steps to mitigate the worst outcome and give yourself a chance to have a better outcome than what the worst case scenario would be. And you take steps to do this. The third step is to ask yourself, what are logically and reasonably the odds of having this worst case scenario? And if you analyze it, usually you find out that the odds of having this worst case scenario really aren't that great. And when you face problems in this logical way, you find out that your stress is greatly reduced. And he tells stories in this book about how people have done this in a practical way. So that's my story about Dale Carnegie's book. I recommend it, and this book, and How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, and also How to Win Friends and Influence People, which boils down to a very interesting concept. Have human relations with other people and talk in terms of the other person's interest. So there you go, Dale Carnegie. Thanks for listening.